Hey everyone, welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. This is your host, Jonah Lupton. We have another great episode for you today. As always, if you want to send me any reviews of the podcast, any suggestions, or just give me some feedback, you can send me an email to jonahlupton@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from any of you. Today's guest is Charles Davis. He is the co-founder of a company called EasyVote. Company is based in Georgia. I actually met Charles when I was living in Wilmington. So he kind of goes back and forth. He actually started this business back in, I think it was 2012 or 2013 with his brother Ron, and then the third co-founder. They are a gov tech company, so they are helping their jurisdictions, which are essentially towns and counties and whatnot, with their, I guess what's the right word, their voting solutions, to help them run more efficient operations when it comes to elections. So he'll do a way better job of explaining this. So let's welcome Charles to the show. Charles, how are you, man?
Good, John. Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. So in your own words, why don't you tell us what EasyVote does?
Sure. EasyVote, we're a SaaS provider, and we've introduced SaaS into the government sector and specifically the election sector. And what we do is we help the elections process, how you run in the elections, become much more efficient and save money for everybody involved. So what we don't do is we don't count votes, and we're not a hardware player. So kind of the person when you go vote, that's the stuff you deal with. Our clients and what we do is all behind the scenes. We deal with the elections directors in city, counties, and states around the country and help them with our software run a better process for the election. How you manage poll workers, how you manage the equipment, how you get campaign finance laws followed on a digital platform, how you just run that election better through the whole cycle through the year.
So the actual jurisdiction is using it, but the candidates are also using it too, right?
Sure. And the one aspect, we do have a product that is what we call Easy Campaign Finance, and that product helps candidates while they're raising capital to run for election, raising money from donors. They have to track that in every state, every city, every jurisdiction. They have, in either if you're in office, you have to track it quarterly, or if you're out of office and you're running for an open seat, you got to track that. Our software does that digitally. A lot of that's been done by paper around the country, and we've introduced a platform that it can be done digitally, using mobile, using web. It makes it much easier for that candidate and that treasurer. And the other thing it does, and this has been a hot product for this third reason, we also have a site, a web portal where the public can go in and see what candidates have raised what money and from whom. And as we've seen in the last presidential election, that's been very important. So this is why this product's gained a lot of traction recently around the country.
I was just going to ask you, so I'm glad you mentioned that, what was the old way of doing it? And I had a feeling it was probably paper and emails and spreadsheets and Word docs. It sounds like it probably was.
Yeah, and that's completely correct. And that's where we saw a niche in this market, and we brought the software in to help. The way many of these elections have been run in the past, paper, exactly what you said, paper, spreadsheets, however antiquated way you can imagine. And what our software does is this brings that to a new level and brings the digital capabilities of the Azure platform in the cloud and the security of that. And it gets rid of all the old way of doing it and really makes it more efficient for the elections department.
So I would think anything in government, right? There's pros and cons. The pros being it's a massive market opportunity if you can get in there. The con is it's hard to get in there. As these government is slow to make adoptions to new technology. So when you guys started the company, from when this was an idea in your head to when you guys had a product in the market, how much time had surpassed? And then how long did it take to start closing clients?
Sure. Let's step back. We originally had another company that did work in the government sector. And the one thing about government, it is exactly, you pinned it right. It's a huge market. It's underserved for technology. But the things we saw, it's very sticky. So once you get in there, you're in there for a long time.
Right.
So we started looking at opportunities, especially in elections. And we started with a single product with one county in Georgia, and it helped get people through the line faster. When you go vote, you'd have to, it was really for early voting in Georgia, you would register at that time, fill out a form and get it through. So we designed a product which would make that process much more digital, much more quicker. And then one county bought it, another county bought it, then we had 10 counties. And then we said, what other problems in elections? We started looking at other places we could really help. And then we got that breadth through Georgia. We said, okay, what do other states look like? So all that was probably under a two-year time frame, vetting out the product, building the backbone of it, understanding the SaaS model, the pricing of the SaaS model, understanding the software and how we helped counties understand a cloud-based platform, which was new for a lot of people. And then all that took a couple of years. And then once we got enough traction, we went out and looked at capital, and we did a capital raise. And then again, from that point forward, another 2 years down the road in 12 states, good traction throughout the country, and continue to look at growth opportunities going forward.
Now, now you guys raised $2 million. Who did you raise it from?
We had some private individuals in North Carolina, which call super angels, and they were interested in what we were doing, and again understood the stickiness of the government sector. So we teamed with these guys, and they came in and gave us the capital. And as we have gotten to that point of really showing this thing can scale to the next level, is now we've attracted the interest of the smaller VCs to the larger VCs that are really looking at the GovTech industry and saying, there's a lot of room for growth and disruption here.
Now, how many investors did you have in that round, that $2 million round?
We had 2.
Okay. And how many do you think you pitched?
Pretty heavy. Oh, I mean, that's
I just think it's good to put this in perspective, because I don't think people that have ever raised money necessarily understand that you may have to pitch 20 or 30 people just to get a few.
Oh, no. Well, there were probably 50.
Wow.
And,
okay.
And when you say 50, we had commitments from other players. We just ended up going with the situation and the deal that we had and the structure we had was the best fit for us. We had other people commit us money.
Okay.
And you're right. But when I say 52, you're always pitching. You're always telling your story. You're always getting the word out. So you never know who you're standing in front of or telling the story to and who they know. So it takes, I mean, in the world, especially as fundraising continues to grow in this country, it's a lot of no's before you get a couple yeses.
And why did you settle on the 2 that you did? What was it about their backgrounds or their connections or even their portfolio companies that made them the right fit?
It was the backgrounds, and these were former entrepreneurs, so they understood kind of. Let me step back for a second. When you're pitching, you're talking to people who may have come wealthy through corporations and never really run a company, or other different ways, or VC that were professional, like smaller VC, but never really ran a company. Well, our investors had run companies, sold companies, built companies. So there was all those pieces of it that they understood the issues that we fight every day, versus some others who don't really understand some of those issues, and then they have had successful exits. So we felt that those guys were the right fit for our company at that time.
Okay. And how do you guys typically acquire your customers? I mean, I've never spent any time in GovTech, so maybe who is the go-to person for you, and how long does it take them to buy into this?
Sure. We have both an indirect and a direct channel. So we have salespeople in different states, or different territories, because they handle more than one state. And the majority of our staff are former elections directors, or have been in elections, obviously, so they know what the fight is in this industry. So, we have former guys who have contacts in multiple states, and that's our direct model. We also team with some resellers out in the marketplace that have been in the industry for a long time, primarily on the hardware side that don't compete with us on the software, or primarily on kind of the ballot printing side that, again, don't compete with us, but see the value in our product to take to their customer base. Those were the 2 models that we've continued to build out and to grow. Finding customers in this space is pretty easy. I mean, I can type in, I know every potential customer I have in the U.S., so I can map that out and then go. The biggest, it's a mature industry, but one of the biggest ways we still meet people is through the state conferences, because each state has a elections conference annually or every other year, and we can meet the players who actually make the decisions for the elections industry, and that being the elections directors in these city, states, and counties. Get in front of them, demo our software, and then go through the sales cycle. That sales cycle could take a month or could take a year. Again, government, there's budgeting issues, so it's an interesting space. But once you're in there for a long time. Our stickiness, we've had customers renew and renew. It's a sticky industry, and that's where other investors have seen and interested in what's going on in GovTech.
Right. I would think your churn is really, really low compared to other traditional SaaS companies.
Extremely low.
What is the pricing model? How do you guys charge for this?
We look as far as pricing model. It's a subscription based. It's a SaaS. It's a true SaaS model, and basically we look at the size of the electorate or the population in the city, county, states, and then we kind of scale up. There's a standard model under kind of 50,000 population, and then above that it's tiered from different levels. So we have three counties in the Metroplex in Dallas that are huge, that have 2 million people that are customers of us. And then we have cities that have less than 3,000 people that are customer of ours. So we can scale this thing from the smallest level on the pricing to the largest. And they've all, to show our scalability even today, we have clients that small, and we have some of the largest. We have 5 of the largest top 20 counties in the country that are clients. So you can see we've priced this thing more on a level of what the population size is in these jurisdictions.
Is the district with, call it 500,000 people harder to close than the district with 5,000, or is it pretty much all the same?
It's all the same, because that 5,000 jurisdiction could be real easy or could be real hard because one person's making that decision. The bigger one has the money and wants to spend the money on technology that improves their lives. So if they validate the technology and they've budgeted the money, then the close is pretty easy.
So with that, do you guys spend any time going after the small ones, or you just focus on the big ones and wait for the small ones to kind of fall into your lap?
Well, obviously, when we go to a new state, and again, I told you we were in 11 states right now, including D.C., we look at beachheads in those states, and then once we get those, when I say beachheads, we look for counties that have influence, and that sometimes is the big and sometimes is the small ones. But the guys that understand the technology, and then we use those reference accounts as we grow to others. So your point is very valid. I mean, we take time to make sure we're landing the right customers in these states, and then obviously some of the smaller ones will come along as they say, okay, my neighbor has vetted these guys out, so that's good enough for me. So I'm gonna move forward with EasyVote.
I mean, this sounds like the type of business where you guys are doing a lot of outbound sales, whether it's starting with email and then picking up the phone and calling. I mean, this isn't your traditional digital marketing play, is it?
Absolutely, you are correct, because the traffic. So we track all our traffic on our website, and we do get inbound that way. But the majority is outbound, because again, remember. Versus the traditional, or what you're talking about, it's hard to pin every customer down, right? It'd be almost impossible. For us, I can look at every jurisdiction, and there's 50 states, there's 3,500 counties, and there's 30,000 plus cities, and know who my contact could be. I can go get that information, and then it's just going from that point forward.
Now the team is about 15 people, right?
Correct.
Everyone in Georgia except you?
No. Our people are spread out. We have guys in Texas. We have guys in South Carolina. We have me in North Carolina. We have.
So it's a distributed team, I guess.
Right. I mean, we have an office in Atlanta, but our office mainly holds our executive staff and our development team. Our development team is in Atlanta, but our sales people are in district, and our service people are out in the field.
Okay, gotcha. How has recruiting been? I mean, have you guys had a hard time finding the right talent? And is that why you're somewhat distributed? It's easier to find talent, or pick the best person in wherever they may be?
Yeah, and remember, this, as you can probably figure out, this is a very relationship-based business. And I'm talking about relationship from us to our clients, because, these election directors and the people in government, it's a face-to-face meeting that they're interested in.
Yeah.
So that's why our salespeople are pretty much out in the field, and our service people, because we want them to be. I mean, we pride ourselves in reacting and making sure our service is the best out there. But as far as recruiting, yes. I mean, we I would say it's today recruiting for developers is extremely hard, because there's just a dire need for development. And luckily in Atlanta, we have a good pool, and we've been able to do that very well. As far as the sales and service side, yes, recruiting, because these are unique skills in a unique industry, but we do see opportunities for people either coming out of the industry or have been in other areas in the industry to come work for us. So we've seen more headache on the development side, but than on the sales side. But recruiting is always tough in this environment.
What is the perfect salesperson for you guys? I mean, are you able to find people that actually have dozens or even hundreds of relationships with voting, decision makers around the country, or don't those people
Yes.
really exist?
No, they exist, and sometimes they've been with other companies that, you know, may have sold the hardware side of the business and never
Okay.
been on the software, and we'll bring them over into software, or they've been out there as a former elections director trying to decide what they want to do. And as long as they understand the needs of our clients, that's a big one, and their pain thresholds, so they can show where our software, solves those pain thresholds. That's a big one. So we've been able to, our perfect salesperson has had experience running elections or having dealt with elections and really understanding the pain points, but also sees the vision of what our software is solving for those pain points. And that's, we've been lucky enough to attract those people to our company today.
How big is this market? I mean, how many voting districts around the country are there? And I mean, I know you guys, there's, you deal with the districts, you deal with the candidates, so there's a few different dimensions there, but I mean, how big is this? I mean, how big can EasyVote get in your opinion?
Well, and I'll give you a couple numbers. I mean, I think I said it earlier, 3,500 counties, 30,000 cities, 50 states, and then there's districts beyond that. There's been, if you're looking at the whole elections industry, you're looking at a $10 billion industry. So
Okay.
that's very large. If you look at the software, what we're trying to do, we believe is a $1 billion market, and that nobody's looking at it the way we have. And we believe we are early this market, but we want to be early. We want to be on the tip as GovTech continues to pour over into buying technology. And we're seeing more and more of that every day, that we're going to be the branded company. EasyVote's going to be the brand that's going to continue to roll this across the country. As far as when you think about running an election, you need our software to help you do that.
Gotcha. What have been the biggest challenges for you guys?
We've talked about this, and I said, the sales cycle has always been a tough animal for us, even though we have deals that close quickly. Getting our name out across the country has been tough, because I'm in a very niche market. I can't just buy internet advertising or whatever. I mean, we've used digital advertising or digital, AdWords, but it's a very specific market, and these guys look at very specific things. So getting our name out there has been one of the biggest challenges. Once we get in front of people, we've heard time and time again, where have you been? We've been looking for this forever. You have the best technology we've ever seen. But it's getting in front of them. And we got to do that. That's been a challenge that continues to be hard for us to kind of knock down. It's just making sure our name gets in front of everybody all the time.
I'm sure you guys have a pretty good closing rate. Like you said, when you get in front of people, it's an easy sell, but I'm sure you still hear some no's once in a while. So when you do hear a no, what is the most common reason? Is it they just don't want to spend the money? They don't want to, they're too lazy to convert?
It's budgeting. Usually when a no comes, it didn't meet our budget. It didn't get in our budget this cycle. Let's look at it next cycle, and then we'll close many of those that next cycle of budgeting. Once in a while we hear, well, there's not this feature in there, and we're not going to customize the software. Again, this is a SaaS platform, which is delivered on a native app, so it can be delivered immediately. But we will take the opportunity, if that is a feature that we feel like could be rolled across the whole platform, then we'll do that. And then we've been able to pick up, some of our best market research has come from our customers to say, well, we need to plug this in there, we need to plug that in there, without over customizing, because that's not what we do. But when it makes sense across the platform, we definitely bring those features into the system.
If you could go back 5 years, what's one thing that you would tell yourself?
Stay the course and continue to believe in what you're doing. I mean, being an entrepreneur, building a company has its ups and downs every day of the week. But, you always got to believe. If I didn't believe in what we were doing, I'd be doing something else. And even through, ups and downs, having that perseverance and having that belief that we really are changing the industry, which we are, makes me want to continue to move forward. And this, if it was 1 year ago, 5 years ago, you just got to instill that into you and continue to move forward.
I'm trying to think what else I want to ask you before we wrap up here. Anything that we skipped over that you wanted to mention?
No, I think on a general basis it went pretty well.
Is this your first SaaS company as a founder?
Yes, for SaaS, I've had we've done some other companies, but they're more kind of reseller based,
Okay.
and that's where we kind of found this niche into EasyVote. We're looking at some other opportunities, but no, EasyVote, this is the first one as a SaaS. Yes.
Any suggestions on hiring developers? I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges for any founder. Sometimes it's just finding the CTO, and then a lot of
Yep.
times, they can't find a good CTO, so they just, a non-technical founder tries hiring their own dev people and typically runs into a disaster. So how did you guys do it?
Yeah, here's what we've done. We've teamed with a headhunting firm down in Atlanta, and we'll test them out for 3 to 6 months. We've been through 3 or 4 different developers, but I will tell you, we found the superstar doing that aspect too, and make sure we cling on to him. And then we found another. It's a number. I mean, Jonah, honestly, it's a numbers game. You bring them in before we hire them full time. We'll test them out, and if we like, we found some jewels that way. And
what do you mean test them out? You mean hire them as like a freelancer just to work on one project?
Yeah, they're on contract.
Okay, gotcha.
So we do a contract with them, which is more expensive for us up front.
Right.
But we can also get rid of them at any moment. The other thing we've been very successful with is looking at a couple of interns, and we found an incredible opportunity. And we have somebody that works for us, again, contract basis, who's in college for so many, maybe 40 hours a month. But that's some of the best money I've spent all year.
No, I know. I follow the Atlanta startup scene through David Cummings. He has a blog. So he talks a lot about what's going on down there, right? He's very well known. He had a successful exit from Pardot. I mean, what do you see from Atlanta? I mean, I know the startup scene is certainly growing, right?
Yes. No, Atlanta, I think, is Atlanta's positioned to continue to grow tremendously moving forward. 1, because of this transportation. 2, because of the capital that's being invested down there, and 3, because the technology scene has taken giant steps forward, and especially on the entrepreneurial side coming. I mean, he's been an integral part, but ATDC, the tag, all that has been vital to pushing us forward. In fact, last year we were one of the top 40 companies. Tag Technology Association of Georgia named us one of the top 40 up and coming companies last year. So the technology scene in Atlanta continues to improve because immigration of people want to live down there, and it's bringing all this new talent that is helping prop everything forward.
And now, since you've spent some time in Wilmington, as I have, what are your thoughts on the Wilmington startup community?
That's probably a different animal. To be honest with you, I love the thought process. I love what's going on down here. The biggest issue is capital. I mean,
right.
The only way entrepreneurs grow, well, not the only way, let me rephrase that. Capital is the lifeblood of the majority of entrepreneurs. There's guys that do without it. And
most of the big successful companies have raised capital.
Sure. You go down the line.
Those billion-dollar startups, every single one of them has raised capital.
Oh yeah. And the most successful guys in GovTech, Accelera, who's going, rumors are going public, raised $200 million. Anderson Horowitz is done OpenGov, which they put $40 million in. So there's definitely people looking at space. But the point about Wilmington, there's not enough capital down here, and that's why obviously we're headquartered in Atlanta. There's Raleigh, there's the other hotbeds, DC. But I will tell you, I did a conference up in New York City. I cannot believe what's going on in New York City right now. It is becoming, outside of Silicon Valley, the place to raise capital.
Boston's up there too. Boston, I would say Boston,
I know you're a Boston
New York.
Guy. I'm
a Boston guy. So I'm a little biased, but for many years, Boston had a lot of great VC firms, and they were missing the angel investor component. But over the last decade, they've really gotten hundreds of angel investors active, thanks to some exits and whatnot. So, and New York's kind of the same thing. New York was mostly like private equity and hedge funds, and now they're adding the other layers of VC and angel. So there's some exciting stuff happening out there, and I don't know if it's ever going to really happen in Wilmington. Wilmington's just so small, and like you said, until you get those super angels putting money into Wilmington, it's going to be very hard to attract the right people, because anyone with talent is just going to move out of Wilmington to go where they have to go to find talent and find capital.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty much all I got for you, Charles. Anything you wanted to add in there? I know the website is easyvotesolutions.com. I'll put that in the show notes, the intro. But how can we connect with you or the company online?
My email address is cdavis@easyvotesolutions.com.
And for anyone listening that may be in the government sector, maybe even better involved with elections, just have them send you an email and go from there.
Absolutely. I would love to hear from them, even just to talk about what we're doing. And that would be the best place to start.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. I'm really glad we got a chance to connect here. Wish you the best. Sounds like you guys are on the right path here. You guys are actually in the process of raising more capital, right?
Correct.
Okay. From traditional VC funds?
We're definitely talking to strategics and to traditional VC. Yes.
What's an example?
We've gotten to.
What's a strategic to you guys?
There's some players in the marketplace that we could team with, we could partner with, we could, there's all those.
Like big software companies that are already selling into Gov?
Yes.
Okay.
And other smaller ones that are gov related, but have much larger ambitions that aren't in elections that want to come into elections. Perfect. So those are the strategic guys. And then obviously we're getting to the run rate where the big VCs where VC capital becomes much more interesting.
Right. What is that, like a 5 million ARR?
We won't be at 5. It'll be somewhere under that, but yeah, we're good. Okay. We'll continue to grow from there.
Cool. Well, best of luck with everything, man. Look forward to staying in touch. And
yep,
that's pretty much it.
Thank you for
Enjoy the rest of the year.
I appreciate it. All right, man.
You got it, Charles. Thanks, talk to you soon later, man.
All right, you too, man.